Can you imagine experiencing your life as easy and peaceful most of the time, even when things around you seem to be in chaos? It truly is a possibility. That is the gift of living with soul and ego in harmony, living in self-awareness without judgment. Get ready to listen, share, and experience the magic that is energy medicine. Now, here is the host of Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, Traci Trimble.
Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Traci. Thank you so much for joining me today as part of my global community. As a bioenergetic therapist, a spiritual guide, and an energy worker, I specialize in treating both cause and the effects of depression, anxiety, acute stress, and chronic pain from the perspective of the layers of the energy that surround the human bioenergetic field. The physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. My passion is teaching energy medicine such as Reiki, chakra balancing, and Hatha yoga. My gift is not only to see through the layers of the bioenergetic field, but also a superpower, which is the ability to connect with your permission directly to the voice of your soul energy, whether it's quietly whispering or screaming out for help. I hear you. As a trained talk therapist, I then have the joy of speaking with your ego, and it's my job to guide and teach how to bring soul and ego back into harmony through self-awareness without judgment. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. The title of our session today is called Physical Ways to Create Spiritual Muscles. I want to talk about what spiritual muscles are, why they're so important, and how to create them for your own self. Now, the easiest way to create spiritual muscles is by creating small habits, doing one small thing consistently every day, a practice of sorts that gets us to exactly where or who we're meant to be. And that's what today's show is about. We've spent the last 36 episodes leading up to this moment where we're starting to realize how incredibly important it is in order to sustain our happiness, to know who we want to be, to be consciously aware of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're behaving. Our spiritual muscles are not unlike our physical muscles. They need to be worked. And each time they're worked, they create memory. They begin to understand what it is we're about to do next, and they ease us into the activity. That work becomes easier and easier and easier, gifting us the capacity to change things up, to be more, to have more, to do more. And I would like you to realize that when I say more, I'm not suggesting at all that where we're at isn't enough, or that there's somewhere else to be or go. I want to suggest that when I say more, especially in the terms of be more, have more, do more, what I'm saying to you is that our purposefulness in this space and time called human being is to always be growing, to always be experiencing, learning, sharing, and healing. And in order to do that, we must move forward. And that always presents to us more opportunity. Spiritual muscles are the practices that we use to develop positive attitude. Whether that attitude is physical, emotional, or mental, it all combines as one energy or entity to be our spiritual truth. And that spiritual truth, I believe, and I have been teaching you over these last 37 episodes, is that we are spiritual beings, a human experience. We are here to learn. We agreed to a very specific contract. That does not mean at all that we agreed to any story. We create our own stories. We maintain those stories. But if we're not doing anything, if we are not connecting our physical actions to our spiritual purposefulness, then the story is being created for us, not by us. And that's where pain and suffering is created. So how do we create practices that develop this positive emotional, mental attitude? Well, we start by reconnecting to our true self, about knowing what the story is that we have been telling up until this moment, to look at it in a way that says, is this who I want to be? Is this truly, deeply, madly love? Am I truly, deeply, and madly in love with who I have been up until this moment? And the most incredibly cool thing about being human being is that every single moment is an opportunity to do better, to literally stop what we were doing, with awareness decide who we want to be and start being that person, start living that experience. So our spiritual muscles are the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual ways in which we act out our story with conscious awareness. Very much like going to the gym to work out, that's our work, physically. But spiritually, our work is greater. Our muscle memory spiritually is taking consistent daily action, creating new habits, a practice that gets us exactly to where we're meant. So what do I mean by physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual? Well, physically, we want to create a connection to ourselves, to others, but also to Source. So physically, that's about taking care of ourselves. It's about putting our well-being as the foundation of who we want to be. It's about bringing our body, our mind, and our spirit together as one. It's about realizing that this vessel called our body is not only the way in which we navigate human being, but it is also where we store every single experience. Here's the cool thing. We're not meant to store every single experience. We're meant to collect the evidence of our contract. Everything else is just non-beneficial weight holding us down. We don't need all that stuff we're carrying within us. And as we start to cultivate a connection with ourselves physically, we begin to realize that this body is a vessel, a divine vessel. But physically, it's essential that we're also connecting to other people. We are so disconnected now with the incredible powers of the internet, even the incredible powers of the telephone. We aren't doing things in person with other people. We aren't actually physically connecting. We're not touching. We're not staring into each other's eyes. We're not listening to one another. We aren't physically connecting with Source. We aren't taking time from our busy schedules to quiet our mind, to feel that there's something greater than ourselves that we're connected to. I call this universal life force energy. Putting all religion aside, that's God to me. The omnipresent creative source of life. How do we connect physically? For me, that's a meditation. It's a deep hatha yoga practice focused on yang energy, the wise, nurturing energy of my body. Physically, that's closing my eyes and allowing my physical body to speak to me through the physical annoyances, the pains, and the dysfunction I experience. It's time for us to physically create spiritual muscles that allow us to connect deeply to ourselves, to others, and directly to Source. But we also have emotional muscle memory that creates spirituality. We have deep feelings, and by deep, I don't necessarily mean in terms of volume. I mean in terms of meaning, in terms of purposefulness. Our emotional and our physical are intimately connected because we have the capacity to literally feel our emotion in our body. It's as though if we have the lack of capacity to understand our emotions, our body, our physical body, will play them out for us. So there is a very intimate connection between our physical and emotional. And through acknowledging that connection, we are becoming more spiritual. All of this is at the lowest vibration. This is all at the vibration of matter, of being able to touch it, to feel it, to know it. Our spiritual muscles are made up of the physical, the emotional, and the mental. They are the ways that we get to know ourselves. It's time for our first break of the show. When we return, we're going to go into depth, as we just did with our physical elements of our spiritual muscles. We'll go in depth into our emotional energy. You are listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine. We'll be right back.
Many of us believe that feeling sick and tired is just the way life is, so we get stuck in that habit. What if we are not meant to live in pain and suffering at all? By tuning in to Soul Healing Radio Show with Doctor of Energy Medicine, Traci Trimble, you will learn to eliminate the habit of suffering through self-awareness without judgment, therefore bringing soul and ego closer together. Are you ready to learn, share, heal, grow, and prosper? Listen for Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Ph.D. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Traci, and I am here to teach you metaphysics in self-awareness without judgment. If you haven't already found me on Facebook, please try my personal page, Traci, T-R-A-C-I, Trimble, business page, True Path Consulting with Traci Trimble, Ph.D. Now let's back to our show topic, the physical ways to create spiritual muscles. Before we went to break, we were talking about exactly what practice we can develop to create a positive attitude. Started with physical. They are our health, our well-being, our self-care. Now I'd like to talk about emotional, the ways in which we can deeply know ourselves. We have two types of emotion, beneficial and non-beneficial. And if we do no work developing the spiritual muscles of our emotional energy, they would be out of alignment. They would be non-beneficial. They'd be holding space for harm and suffering. But the more work that we do, the more ways in which we become aware of how we process our feelings, how aware our feelings are trying to tell us, the more capacity we have to create our own story. The purpose of our emotions is like a GPS that you use in your vehicle. Its purposefulness is to guide and to teach us, to warn us when we are thinking consciously or unconsciously about something that is not beneficial. The non-beneficial energies of emotions are fear, guilt and blame, shame, anger and lack, sadness and grief, disconnection, the capacity to lie to ourselves, and even greater, the capacity to make big stories that actually cause us harm. But in alignment, our powerful emotions, our empowering emotions, are a sense of safety, security, support, our creativity and our passion, our self-love, our esteem and willpower, the capacity to know our truth, to feel at the core of our being that which is true, to be able to see through the stories and have the courage to say, no, thank you, that's going to take me out of alignment. And all of this is the sense of connection, not only to ourselves and others, but also to something greater. Emotionally, we connect to ourselves. We have a concept of control. We have an awareness that allows us to choose with complete conscious competence what we're going to say, going to do, what we're not going to do. Our emotional connection to others allows us to find a depth, kindness, and compassion, to release wanting control over them, to give them space to do their own work without any fear. Emotionally, when we connect to Source, we know a true love so deep that we'll no longer desire chasing it through non-beneficial energy, through addiction, through the fear of lack, through unhealthy relationships. It's that time to find our emotional awareness. And then that leads us into the next energy level, remembering again that the energies are physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's those four practices, those daily activities that grow our muscle memory, that create our spiritual muscle. So next is mental. The capacity to develop a positive mental attitude gives us the capacity to have a hold over, a choice of the thoughts and words that we use to perpetuate us into past stories, to create and maintain those stories. Our intellectual capacity relies a great deal on being able to know where we're at in the moment. Are we unconsciously incompetent? Do we have absolutely no idea of what's going on? Or are we consciously competent, that we're exactly where we're meant to be? Because it is only through that mental awareness that we are literally creating and maintaining our storyline. No one else can create our truth if we are a strong, positive mental attitude. To create this muscle memory, this spiritual connection to our mental attitude, we must first know ourselves. Most specifically, the quality of our thoughts. As human beings in a state of lack of awareness, we have the capacity to be so cruel to ourselves. We literally say things to and about ourselves, sometimes with, but sometimes without any awareness, that we would never utter to another human being, because the depths of its cruelty would be unacceptable. The quality of our thoughts is how we develop strong spiritual muscle. And with others, we cultivate spiritual muscle by releasing criticism and judgment, by minding our own business, by literally not using the power of our mental attitude to hurt, harm, or create suffering. When we have a positive mental state of mind, our purposefulness is to help others, not to harm others. Imagine we had the capacity to allow everyone to do their own work with kindness and compassion. We can't do that if we think we know better for them. We can't do that if our words drop out and they're harmful and hurtful. We actually can't do that if we have absolutely no idea causing harm with our words and our actions. This mental energy is a huge component of what our spiritual muscles are built of. And this is called self-esteem. Our self-esteem is what we believe about ourselves. With self-esteem, we also have willpower and self-love. But without self-esteem, we actually believe we're unworthy, like or accept ourselves. We create false beliefs of inadequacy and capability. We don't think we're good enough. Who is that serving? Absolutely no one at all. And most importantly, when we back to our spiritual muscles creating connection with self, other, and source, if we are in a negative or a non-beneficial mental attitude, if we aren't doing our work mentally, we're literally disconnecting ourselves from source. We're only stuck in our ego energy. We're so based in fear trying to figure out how to navigate human beings that we completely forget that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we don't connect directly to source. We don't realize that that is an integral conversation that we engage in every single day within the confines of our mind, but by bringing soul and ego together inside this physical body, meditation gives us the capacity to literally speak to source. when we're trapped in a non-beneficial, negative mental state of mind, we very often in desperation pray. But our relationship with Source is a two-way, active, intimate relationship. Prayer, without any practice or any connection, is simply asking for something. But meditation is asking for what you need to know, receiving the answer, and taking action, which in this moment is what brings the physical, the emotional, and the mental energy elements together. If our muscle memory is strong, physically, emotionally, and mentally, then we have the capacity to be spiritual. To not try to be spiritual, not find spirituality, not to allow spirituality to find us, to be, do, and have spiritual connection directly to Source. And it's us, the most incredible, empowering gift imaginable. This is self-awareness without judgment. Can you imagine living in a space where there's no shame, guilt, grief, bitterness, resentment, jealousy, and betrayal? Where you don't feel rejection, abandonment, or vengeance? Where you're not chasing control and fearing a lack of self-esteem? That all of that melts away with self-awareness, without judgment. None of these energies can exist in a healthy spiritual awareness. There's no room for them. So the ways in which we get to know our physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually create the spiritual muscles, muscle memory that moves us forward into our highest good. And where we're all aiming to get to is a place of conscious competence, where we are really good at knowing who we are. And it doesn't feel like work because we love being, doing, and having who we're meant to be. It's time for the second break of the show. When we get back, we're going to explore the fourth element, the fourth way in which we know ourselves, which is called spiritual as well. But it is the element of spirituality that creates the life of spirituality. We'll be right back.
Have you ever noticed that all of the radio shows that Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, shares flow into one another, each containing a valuable nugget of aha? Just imagine that by listening to them over and over again, you will experience a deeper knowing of your true self. Have you considered gifting this knowledge, awareness, and love to others? Please go back into her archives, pick your favorite sessions, and share them with your loved ones. As each of us grow more self-aware, the more beautiful, the more empowering this existence called life gets for us all. Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Traci Trimble. Before we went on break, we were talking specifically about the mental ways, the intellectual ways that we can know ourselves, that we can create a connection with ourselves, with others, and with Source, so that we have practices that develop positive mental attitude, which in turn create the muscle memory of spirituality. Now I would like to move into the fourth element, the fourth way in which we can know ourselves. And the first way, physical, second, emotional, both earthly energy. The third, mental, the spiritual, etherical energy. Physical and emotional connect to our human self. But mental and spiritual connect us to our etheric self, our higher self. Spiritually, we connect with ourselves through one truth, through remembering, recognizing, and believing one truth. And that is, we are not alone. We are all connected to something greater than ourselves. I believe this to be called universal life force energy. I believe it flows through us, within us, around. It is always available to us. Because we have free autonomy, though, we must ask for the guidance, the healing, and the protection. And I believe as part of our spiritual muscle memory, that in order to create a connection to our true self, we must also create a connection, a practice that gives life's energy permission to flow through us, within us, and around us every moment of every day. This is what I believe energy medicine is. It's a knowing that I'm not in this alone, that although I chose this human experience, that there's a purpose behind it. And for me in particular, I'm incredibly grateful that I know my purpose and I'm living it. And part of that purpose is teaching you to know and to remember yourself, the reason that you're really here. Create a spiritual muscle. We must also connect with others spiritually. And we do that also through a universal truth. And that universal truth is that we are one. We are all exactly the same. We are spiritual beings having a human experience who chose a specific contract to be here in this space and time. Not a single one of us is any different. Race, religion, demographics, gender, none of them matter. Those were all choices made to create a story, to find an experience. It's time to stop judging and criticizing others and to realize that our spiritual muscle, our spiritual memory offers to us these greatest truths. That we create a connection for ourselves of oneness, to others as oneness, but most importantly, to Source, to Spirit, to God, to the universe, whatever you want to call it. The truth is, at its lowest common denominator, we are all energy. And we are meant to vibrate so bright that we are the light. And in this space and time, that light equates to one thing and one thing only. And that's love. We must love ourselves deeply and unconditionally. We must love others deeply and unconditionally. And most importantly, we must give and receive love to and from our higher power, our source. So this takes us back to that most incredible connection, that practice to develop this positive spiritual attitude. And I think it's love. It is about time that every single one of us loves ourself, our very own self, madly and deep. And this is truly what spirituality is all about. I can't even do it. Sorry, fellas. Spirituality is simply the highest vibration of love in every moment. In the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the ugly moments, to vibrate love. Now, there is an unfortunate phenomenon called spiritual bypassing. I like to liken it to something that may be happening to or for each of us in the next couple of weeks. The actual date of this live recording is the 21st of December, 2018. So everybody's getting ready to go into this new year called 2019. And we think we've got to get healthy. We're going to go and get a membership at the gym. And we're going to go diligently for the first 2, maybe 3 weeks. We're still going to have the membership and we're going to show up every now and then, but it's slowly going to start eating off because it's not important. We don't know why we're doing it. We're doing it because we think we should, we have to. And spirituality is often no different. We're so sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and we get introduced to something labeled spirituality, and it actually makes us feel good. So then that's what we want. We want more of that good feeling, but we're necessarily willing to do the work for it. We're not willing to be self-aware without judgment. We're not willing to create practices to develop our positive physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual attitudes. We're not really willing to know ourselves, create a connection with ourselves, with others, and with Source. We just want a gym membership. We want it to hold everything. We want to be spiritual. This is spiritual bypassing. It's where we buy into spirituality, and we have a couple practices that could totally be labeled spiritual. We wear the right clothes, the right jewelry, we go to the right places. We don't do the work. We sign up for the retreat, the workshop, we buy the book, but we don't do the work. We say we want to know ourselves. We say we want to be connected to others, and we want to know Source, but we don't create a practice. So let me give you some ideas of how to practice building spiritual muscle. First, physically, we got to start taking care of ourselves. And there are 3 incredibly ways to do that. Drink water. Hydrate your physical body. Tell it you love it. Get moving. We physically need movement. That can be a walk in nature. It could be yoga. It could be, rowing or biking or swimming. Anything gets the body moving. But also gift yourself the capacity to sleep, to close your eyes and to restart fresh and anew. Emotionally, start processing what you're feeling. Be aware of what your body is trying to tell you. For me, I love yoga that. Close your eyes and let your body move into any position it wants to and hold it there until it becomes a peace ease. Mentally, develop self-esteem. become consciously aware of your thoughts, meditate. Meditation isn't about shutting your mind off. It's about connecting your breath and imagination and allowing that to heal you. And finally, spiritually, connect to a greater good. Find the love for yourself, for others, and also for Source. It's about practices that develop positive attitude physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. These are the ways that you will learn to know yourself, to create a connection yourself with others and with Source. It's time for our third break. When we return, we're going to talk about what's coming up next. What we're going to be sharing moving into this new year. Thank you so much for listening to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine. I am so grateful to be in service to you. If anything you've heard here today resonates, please feel free to share it with your friends and your family. We'll be right back.
Now back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Traci, and I'm so grateful to have you share this hour with me each week. My purposefulness is to gift you self-awareness without judgment, to hold space for you as you move closer into doing your work honestly. Every single episode that I do moves into itself through each of its past episodes, but it also moves into what's next. There's no order in which you need to follow any of these episodes. Trust yourself. If you're listening today and you realize that you're not interested in spiritual bypassing anymore, that you deserve more, better, that you can be, do, have whatever you want, or if that's not available to you in this moment, that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to start somewhere, go back into the archives and pick what resonates with you right now. Give yourself permission that when you close your eyes tonight and you fall asleep, that you're starting over, that tomorrow is a brand new day. In Reiki, we have a precept called Just for Today. It's the highest power that we have, intellectually and emotionally, just for today. If you do awesome today, celebrate. If not, gift yourself permission that tomorrow you're starting over. Because as long as you keep trying, you are becoming better. The moment you don't start or you give up, you're allowing this world around us that is chaotic and full of non-beneficial energy to control and compel you. And there's no value in that. Please join me next week, next session, as we repeat the program called Who Do You Want to Be? We're repeating it for several reasons, but the most empowering reason is that this is the starting point. All of these other episodes get us to the capacity to be in a space that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I don't have to be here anymore. I get to choose who I want to be and know how to do it. I know physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually how I can do it. I just don't know who it is. I don't know who I am. And that's what we're going to 2019 focusing on. the ways in which we become who we're meant to be. It's time. It's your time. Either you're hearing this for the first time ever, not having any experience with me at all, and that in itself is judgment. Or you've been listening to me for a while and you get here and you're like, oh yeah, I'm done. The energy, the purposefulness that this show will always hold is to gift you that sense of safety, security, and support that you need to move forward, to be who you're meant to be. Well, it seems like that's all the time that we have for today. As always, I am so incredibly grateful to have spent this time with you. I trust that you got exactly what you needed from me today, but if for any reason you haven't, or you have any questions, concerns, or ideas, please don't hesitate to email me at Traci, Traci, at tracitrimble.ca. If you're curious about what I do or how I can personally guide and mentor you, please check the website at tracitrimble.ca. I do both live and online through Zoom appointments. I have clients all over the world. Be sure to join us next week as we go through who do you want to be. Until next time, gift yourself permission to find without judgment. Be soul and ego in harmony. I'm Traci Trimble, Doctor of Energy Medicine, signing off with so much gratitude, wishing you love and light.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Soul Healing with Traci Trimble, PhD. We hope you'll join us. Until then, give yourself permission to learn, share, heal, and